In a small, forgotten town nestled deep within the forests of Pennsylvania, there was a place known only to the locals as Hollow Creek. It was a place where time seemed to stand still, where the sun barely touched the ground and the trees grew so thick they blocked out the light. There was a legend that haunted the town, a tale that mothers whispered to their children before bedtime, a story that never seemed to fade. The story was about an old woman named Mrs. Abigail Carter, who had lived alone in a dilapidated house at the edge of Hollow Creek for as long as anyone could remember. No one really knew when she arrived, or even how long she had been there, but she was a fixture in the town, as old as the woods themselves. Her house, once grand and beautiful, had fallen into ruin. The windows were shattered, the roof sagged, and the walls were covered in creeping ivy. But it was the eyes of the house that scared everyone. The windows, dark and empty, always seemed to watch, following you wherever you went. Children, especially, were terrified of Mrs. Carter. They would dare each other to run past her house on Halloween night, their hearts pounding with fear, certain that something was lurking behind the broken windows. The stories about her were the stuff of nightmares. Some said she could hear your thoughts, that she could control the very air around you. Others whispered that she had made a deal with dark forces long ago, and that the house was alive with the spirits of those who had come before. But the one thing everyone agreed on was this: Mrs. Carter was not a woman to be trifled with. One evening, a young man named Jake, known for his skepticism and bravado, decided to test the rumors. He had grown up hearing the tales, laughing them off as nothing more than superstition. But now, on a chilly October night, with his friends by his side, he decided it was time to face the truth. They gathered at the edge of town, the wind howling through the trees, and walked down the narrow path leading to Mrs. Carter's house. The air was unnaturally cold as they approached, and the house loomed before them like a dark, twisted version of its former self. The front door creaked in the wind, almost as if beckoning them in. Jake, ever the brave one, pushed the door open and stepped inside. The house smelled of rot and decay, and the floorboards groaned under their weight. Shadows seemed to move of their own accord, twisting and shifting in the corners of the rooms. "This place is a dump," one of Jake's friends, Mark, said, his voice shaky but trying to sound tough. "What are we even doing here?" Jake grinned. "We're proving there's nothing to be scared of. Let's get this over with." They explored the house, their flashlights cutting through the thick darkness. Dust covered everything, and the walls were lined with old, faded portraits of people who seemed unfamiliar. There was something unsettling about the paintings. They didn't look like normal portraits. The eyes in the pictures were strangely lifelike, and some of them appeared to follow the group as they moved from room to room. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind blew through the house, slamming a door shut behind them. The group froze, and then, from somewhere deeper within the house, they heard a voice. It was low and rasping, as though it came from the depths of an ancient, decaying throat. "You shouldn't be here," the voice croaked. The group turned, hearts pounding, to see an old woman standing in the doorway of the living room, Mrs. Carter. Her long, white hair hung in tangles around her face, and her skin was pale, stretched tight over the bones of her face. Her eyes were large and black, as if she had no pupils, just endless, empty voids. She smiled at them, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was a cold, unsettling grin that seemed to stretch too wide, as if her face couldn't contain it. "Leave," she hissed, "before it's too late." But Jake, who had never believed in ghosts or curses, stepped forward, his bravado faltering only slightly. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice shaking but trying to sound confident. Mrs. Carter's smile vanished, replaced by an expression of deep, ancient sorrow. "The curse is upon you now," she whispered, her voice almost drowned out by the wind. "And when the clock strikes midnight, you'll be mine." With a sudden, unnatural movement, she reached out, her long, bony fingers scraping the air like claws. But before anyone could react, the house seemed to shift. The walls groaned, the floorboards creaked, and the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. It was as if the house itself had come alive, trapping them inside. Panic set in. Jake's friends began to scream. their voices echoing through the house as they rushed to the door, only to find it locked tight. The windows were no longer visible. Only dark, endless blackness stared back at them. The hallway stretched on, longer than it should have been, the walls bending and warping. No matter where they went, they could never escape. Suddenly, one of Jake's friends, Mark, screamed and disappeared into the darkness, his voice abruptly cut off, as if swallowed by some unseen force. The group froze, looking around in terror. "Mark!" Jake shouted, but his voice echoed back, distorted and hollow. One by one, the others were taken, vanishing into the shadows with barely a sound. Their bodies were never found. It was as if they had been erased from existence, swallowed whole by the cursed house. Jake ran, heart racing, desperately trying to find an exit. He could hear Mrs. Carter's laughter now, soft and mocking, growing louder with each step. He turned corners, ran down hallways that looped back on themselves, the house constantly changing, shifting, trapping him in its labyrinth. He finally reached the front door, or what he thought was the front door, but when he opened it, he found himself staring into a room he had already passed through. The air was thick with a strange, oppressive energy, and the house seemed to be alive, breathing, watching. His heart pounded in his chest as he realized there was no escape. The last thing Jake saw before he was consumed by the darkness was Mrs. Carter standing in front of him, her eyes glowing, her smile widening, her thin lips barely able to contain the hunger beneath. "You're mine now," she whispered, as the house swallowed him whole. To this day, the townspeople of Hollow Creek still tell the story of the old woman and her cursed house. They say that every Halloween, the house calls to those brave or foolish enough to approach. And if you listen closely, you can hear the cries of the lost souls, trapped forever within the walls of Mrs. Carter's home. Some say that, on nights when the moon is full, you can still see her rocking in her chair, her eyes glowing in the dark, waiting for the next soul to wander too close. And if you ever find yourself near Hollow Creek, you might want to be careful. Because if you hear the faint sound of a door creaking open in the distance, it might just be Mrs. Carter calling you inside. Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy real horror stories, unexplained mysteries, and cursed legends, subscribe, because some stories should never be forgotten. You've been watching Voice of Ghost. Stay curious, stay cautious, and stay in the light. In the remote corners of the Appalachian Mountains, where fog clings to the trees and silence feels alive, there is a place the locals dare not speak of, a place where curses are whispered on the wind and shadows move even in daylight. This is the story of a woman forgotten by time and a curse that refuses to die. This is the Cursed Cabin of Agatha Crowley. In 1904, a reclusive woman moved into a moss-covered cabin deep in the woods near Asheville, North Carolina. Her name was Agatha Crowley. She spoke little, trusted no one, and was never seen at church. Some say she came from Louisiana. Others claim she was born during a solar eclipse in the hills of Tennessee. But what everyone agreed on was that she practiced something unnatural. The townsfolk started to notice strange things. Chickens died mysteriously. Infants fell ill with no explanation. Crops withered overnight, only to bloom again, covered in black mold. Children said they saw her walking barefoot through the woods at night, humming, always humming, carrying jars of animal parts, spells carved into tree bark, dolls hanging from branches by red string. By 1912, fear turned to rage. A small group of men, self-proclaimed protectors of the town, marched into the woods one night. They doused the cabin in oil and set it ablaze. As the flames consumed her home, Agatha emerged, covered in soot, her eyes locked on the men. And with her final breath, she spoke just 6 words. "May your blood remember me and scream for me." The town moved on, or so they thought. But within months, terrible things began to happen. One man woke up screaming every night, claiming she stood at the foot of his bed. Another found his barn filled with dead animals, arranged in a spiral. 3 children went missing over 3 years, each one last seen playing near the woods. And then, for decades, nothing. The cabin, or what was left of it, was swallowed by vines and trees, forgotten, or ignored. In 1978, a group of teenagers dared each other to spend the night there. Only one came back. She was found wandering down a dirt road at dawn, her eyes burned out, not gouged, not cut, just gone. In 2004, a pair of paranormal investigators filmed themselves exploring the site. One started speaking in an unknown language. The other began laughing uncontrollably, then collapsed. The footage was uploaded online, but mysteriously disappeared days later. In 2017, hikers stumbled upon what appeared to be a ritual site, a stone altar surrounded by black candles, a severed deer head, and dozens of crude dolls with pins in their faces. No footsteps, no animals nearby, just a rotten smell and the sound of distant humming. Locals today still whisper about the cabin. They say GPS won't work if you're near it, that trees bend away from the structure, that if you stand there long enough, you'll start to hum her song without knowing why. Agatha may be long gone, but her curse lingers. Her cabin remains, hidden among the trees waiting for the next curious soul to enter. Would you spend a night in the cursed cabin? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy real horror stories, unexplained mysteries, and cursed legends, subscribe, because some stories should never be forgotten. You've been watching Voice of Ghost. Stay curious, stay cautious, and stay in the light. When my sister and I inherited grandmother's house, we thought it was a blessing. We were wrong. My sister Anna and I hadn't seen our grandmother in years. She was a recluse, estranged from the family, and had disowned our mother long ago. When she passed away, we were shocked to find she left us her estate, an old Victorian mansion hidden deep in the countryside. It was a strange bequest, but curiosity and financial need drove us to visit. We planned to spend a weekend assessing the place and sell it as fast as we could. From the moment we arrived, the house felt wrong. The air was dense, unnaturally cold. Vines strangled the walls. The house itself seemed to sigh when we opened the door. The furniture was covered in yellowed sheets, except for one thing, a rocking chair in the corner of the parlor, which gently moved on its own. The parlor was filled with a heavy scent of faded perfume and something metallic. On the mantel was a black and white photo of grandmother, but something was off. Her eyes looked too dark, almost as if the pupils had been inked over. Her smile was wide, too wide. That first night, we slept in separate rooms. At exactly 2:13 a.m., I awoke to the sound of knitting needles clicking. I opened my door and stepped into the hallway. Nothing, but the sound continued, click, 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 from within the walls. I pressed my ear to the wallpaper and felt a faint vibration, like something was crawling inside. Anna didn't sleep either. She said she dreamed of grandmother sitting at the foot of her bed, whispering in some foreign tongue. She said she felt her breath, cold and sweet, like dying flowers. Her mouth never moved. The next day, we discovered strange symbols etched into the attic floor. Circles, spirals, lines intersecting in unnatural geometries. The air in the attic was colder than outside, and the light bulb flickered, even though we brought a fresh generator. In the basement, we found the dolls, hundreds of them, all dressed in black dresses, all with human hair. Each doll had a name tag. Some were unfamiliar, others were disturbingly familiar. Anna's name was on one of them. The next night, I woke to find Anna standing in front of the rocking chair, stiff as stone. Her eyes were rolled back, and she was humming a lullaby neither of us had heard since we were children. It was the same lullaby grandmother used to sing. The photo on the mantel had changed. Now it was Anna in the picture. Grandmother stood behind her, smiling. The rocking chair groaned as if bearing weights, though no one sat in it. I grabbed Anna and tried to drag her out. As I touched her, the walls began to bleed. I don't mean that metaphorically. They bled, thick black blood that reeked of rot. The dolls in the basement started to scream, not mechanically, not pre-recorded. They screamed with real human agony. We ran. We didn't look back. But the car was missing, not just broken down, gone, like it had never existed. We ran into the woods and stumbled upon a strange clearing, a circle of dead trees with a stone altar in the middle. On it, a book bound in what looked like human skin. Anna walked toward it like she was pulled by invisible strings. When she touched the book, The air turned electric. A voice boomed from nowhere and everywhere, speaking in that same foreign tongue from her dream. Then Anna collapsed. When she woke up, her eyes were black. We made it out at dawn, hitchhiked to the nearest town where they told us the house had burned down 20 years ago, that it was never rebuilt. And yet, we had spent 2 nights inside. No one believes us, but Anna hasn't spoken since. She just knits, always at 2:13 a.m. And this morning, I found a new doll in my bed, with hair the same color as mine. And the rocking chair, it's in my room now, rocking on its own. It's been 6 weeks since we escaped grandmother's house, or whatever that place was. Anna hasn't said a single word since. She just sits in the corner of our small apartment, rocking in that cursed chair, knitting with blood-red yarn that never seems to run out. The doctors say it's catatonia, trauma-induced silence. But I know better. Sometimes in the dead of night, I hear her whispering, not in English, not in any language I recognize. Her mouth barely moves, but the air vibrates with her words. I tried to burn the rocking chair. It wouldn't catch. I tried to throw away the doll. It came back. The photo of Anna and grandmother now sits on my nightstand. I never placed it there. The frame is cracked, and each night, grandmother seems closer in the photo. Last night, Anna disappeared. I woke up to find her knitting needle still warm, the yarn unraveling on the floor, leading to the basement laundry room. We live in a 3-story apartment building. There should be no basement. But there was a door, rusty, locked. Then it wasn't. I followed the yarn through the doorway and found myself not in a laundry room, but back inside grandmother's house. The same rotting walls, the same perfume-choked air, the same photo on the mantle, except now I was in the picture too. I heard knitting, click, click, click. The sound echoed through the halls. I followed it. In the upstairs bedroom, Anna sat in the corner, knitting. She looked up and said her first words in weeks. She wants us all. Then she pointed at the mirror. In the reflection, I wasn't standing. I was sitting in the rocking chair, grinning with eyes black as tar. I turned around. The chair was empty. But when I looked back at the mirror, I was still there, still smiling. The house began to shake. Dolls fell from the ceiling like rain. Each one whispered my name in Anna's voice. The floorboards cracked, revealing an endless pit beneath, filled with tangled yarn and writhing shadows. I grabbed Anna and ran, but the hallway never ended. It just stretched on, the wallpaper peeling into mouths, the doors whispering secrets I can't unhear. Finally, we burst through the front door and woke up back in our apartment. But something's different now. Anna still knits. The rocking chair still moves. And every night, one more doll appears. Last night, I found a new one. It had our mother's hair. And the photo on the nightstand? Now there are 3 people in it, Anna, grandmother, and me. But I'm not smiling anymore. I'm screaming. 3 months have passed. Anna doesn't speak anymore. Not even the strange whispering. She only knits. Her fingers never stop. I've tried taking away the needles. She somehow finds new ones. I've thrown out the yarn. It always returns, coiled beside her like a sleeping snake. The apartment is colder now, not just in feeling, in temperature. I see my breath even when the heater's on. The walls groan at night, like they're stretching or breathing. The dolls multiply. There are dozens now. They line the shelves, sit on the couch, crowd the windowsills, and they're changing. Their eyes follow me. Their heads turn slightly when I'm not looking. One night, I caught one blinking. And the worst part? They're starting to look like people I know. My coworker, our old neighbor, even the barista from the coffee shop down the street. Each has a name stitched into its dress. Each has hair I swear I've seen before. I tried moving out, packed everything, called a cab. When I got outside, there was no driver, just an empty seat with a doll behind the wheel. I ran back upstairs. The photo frame now has 4 people in it. Anna, grandmother, me, and someone I don't recognize. A tall figure in the corner, face blurred, smiling wide. That night, I dreamed of the altar again. This time, I was the one walking toward the book. My hands opened it, and I began to read, loudly in that same terrible language. The words didn't make sense, but they bled from my tongue like they belonged there. When I woke up, I was holding a scrap of skin. Real skin, words carved into it. the same symbols from the attic. I don't sleep anymore. 2 nights ago, Anna finally looked at me. Her eyes weren't hers. She said one sentence, "You were never meant to leave." Then she smiled, just like grandmother. The walls pulsed. I heard something in the vents, like claws scraping. I opened the closet and found a staircase leading down. There shouldn't be a staircase, but there it was. Wood rotting, lights flickering. I descended. At the bottom, I was back in the house. Of course I was. Only now everything was covered in webbing made of yarn. It pulsed like veins. The air buzzed, alive with whispering. I saw Anna in the parlor, grandmother behind her, and the tall figure in the corner, knitting. He looked up. He had no face, only a stitched smile. I screamed, but no sound came out. They all turned to me. In unison, they said, "Time to come home." I woke up in my bed. Anna was gone. The walls are bleeding again. The dolls sing at night. And today, a new doll appeared. It has my voice. And in the photo, I'm smiling again, but I don't remember doing it. To be continued. And if you enjoy real horror stories, unexplained mysteries, and cursed legends, subscribe, because some stories should never be forgotten. You've been watching Voice of Ghost. Stay curious, stay cautious, and stay in the light.